wanna be round a champion, a champion. This is me, I still on it, 'cause you all wanna be loved. Yeah, you all wanna be loved by a champion, a champion.
Hey everyone, so we're going to do some progress report on what has been assembled on the e-bike, and then I'm going to take the bike and switch it around, and we're going to start assembling the brake parts under the bike. So the sprocket and the cranks come in separate pieces. You actually have to assemble the sprocket to the crank. There are two pieces to this screw that holds them on. One side has a slot in it and threads on the inside, and on the other piece it's just a threaded screw. That part you want on the back. It actually has an Allen head in the back of the screw there, and then this side it's flat and slotted for like a large screwdriver. You can use a large screwdriver or a flat tool that will fit in there to hold it in place. It doesn't have to be a strong tool, it just has to be enough to hold it in place until you can get the two meshing to where they're almost completely tight. Then you'll be able to remove that flat tool and just use the Allen wrench to tighten it and just hold the gear. It will hold in place once you get to that point. Now, as I've said before, anytime you're assembling pieces you don't want to fall apart through vibration and they're not moving parts, you want to use blue Loctite. So blue Loctite has been applied to the threads, just a drop on each one of these, and there are 4. So you should see 8 little shiny pieces, the back screws and the front screws. Assemble those first before you put it onto the pedal axle here. And when you do put this on, I suggest you use some grease on the shaft before you slide the crank on, or use some anti-seize material. And the reason is this is still cast metal, and if any moisture or corrosion gets in there and you ever have to take these cranks off, it will be near impossible. You have to use a gear puller and you may end up damaging the crank doing that. So using some anti-seize or grease on the square shaft before you put the pedal on will repel that moisture and ensure that you have the ability to pull these off. And you may still have to use a gear puller, but it will come off a lot easier, and it will also ensure that there's no corrosion inside these parts, which will give you a little more lifetime in them. Okay, and the other thing we've done is we've installed the shifter on the back. So we do have this here in place. Now there is a thread screw here, and on the back of this bracket there is a little tab punched out. You want to make sure that rests on the back of the frame here, and the reason is if it's sitting here there is no hole for that to catch into like there is on a normal bike frame. So this has to rest back there. Otherwise, should this screw work even slightly loose, the whole thing would just rotate forward and into the bottom of your swing arm. So by doing it here, you can see that nothing is rotating here at the mount bracket. Everything is rotating on the springs where it needs to be, and once we get the chain together and on here, we'll adjust the screws, the cable, and get it lined up so that we're shifting all 7 gears nice and clean. That'll be one of the last things that happens on the bike before we start riding it, and that is just because then I can set the bike upside down and adjust as needed without having to have 2 or 3 people hold the bike up or having to mount it onto a bracket. So that gives you free range to work with it. So that is the only thing that's happened to the bike since the last video. We're going to turn it around and we're going to start mounting the brakes, which are all mounted on the other side of the bike. Okay everybody, look, we got the bike turned around, magic. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the back brake. Now mine already came assembled with the lower bracket here that mounts to the frame. If it doesn't, just going to make sure that when you mount it, it's mounted in a way that the caliper is angled forward, because it's going to be on the forward part of the disc brake, and that's just because rotation of the disc brake is going toward the front of the frame, and you want this angle there that actually is providing more support that way than it would if it were on the back part of the brake. It gives less room for give. There's a lot more structure here than there would be on the back. Done. So we're going to mount this here. Behind this bracket is where this bracket's going to go. and it's going to sit back there. So you're going to slide it in on the rotor here, and then just rotate it in. There are 2 screws already come with the kit to lock the screw in place. So we're going to just thread these in. Alright, so now we're going to mount the front bracket and caliper here. As you can see, they're not assembled together, and that is because the bracket has to go on and be secured to the forks first before you can then thread the caliper to the adapter bracket. And I believe there are different size rotors here, so this bracket may be a different size, and this has to be secured to the fork first, and then as you can see there are threads here, and that is where the caliper is going to go into. So we're going to use our 5mm wrench, and we're going to put the bracket on first, and then we're going to put it on so that the longer side matches up to the short peg here, and the shorter piece up here mounts to the longer bracket. What that do is it will evenly space off of the rotor to ensure the caliper then clears any ridges or outside of the disc brake itself. Now when you're using 2 screws to mount a bracket, you want to make sure that you work them both in evenly until they're both just about hand snug, and then tighten it up the rest of the way. And that is in case you get if you get the bracket out of alignment and it catches on the screws, you could bind and bend the bracket. So working it in a little bit each time on each side to ensure even movement of the bracket. You'll also ensure that you don't bind it and you don't bend or damage. Alright, so we are seated, and now we're just going to snug it up. And we don't want to over crank this. This is aluminum, so it is easy to strip out, and we don't want to do that. It's just good and snug, bracket's nice and tight. And we're going to slide caliper over, and then we'll put the screws in for this. As you can see, I got the brackets on and I've got the calipers on, but I don't have them completely snug and tight, and the reason is I want to leave room for adjustment, and I'm going to do that once the wheels are off the ground so I can ensure that they're spinning freely and that they're not catching on one side or the other of the brake pad. And then I'll space them off using some construction paper or a playing card. Determine the thickness that you need in order to clear that, because what you're going to do is compress the brakes and then tighten them up, remove the material that's spacing it off, and then spin the wheel to make sure it spins freely, and then engage the brake to make sure that it engages fully on both sides, and then releases and continues to spin freely. This may take a little more adjustment as you go. This is all kind of fine-tuning stuff. So I'm going to shut it off for here, and then I'll take the bike down and we'll get to the handlebars. Okay, so I'm decided to cut this video short, just do the brake work and then do the handlebars later, because I took the bike back apart. So we're going to pick it back up kind of in the beginning of the second rebuild when I did some custom parts. So check the next video, you'll see the parts I did, the adjustments I made based on what I saw once I had a rolling chassis and I wasn't happy with the final product. So back apart it went, and I felt that why proceed with more installation when it came apart. Let's go back, restart, show you some of the things when I first assembled the bike, things I found, issues, just little quirks. So we're going to go back to the beginning, show you those, and then get right into the custom parts that I made to make this bike work. Now, mind you, the only custom part that had to be made somewhere else, you'll see. But the other parts I made right here in my garage with nothing but drill bits, saws, a cutoff wheel, simple tools that most people have around their house, and you can make these parts yourself. I can also provide you some up-close pictures if you want them. Let me know. Post comments below. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to see really in detail. I can come back and recap some of that. As you can see behind me, It's a little covered up because I've already progressed to a certain stage, and I decided to stop and get you guys some videos out here so you can see the beginning, some of the trials, tribulations, how I got to the point where I'm at now, and then we'll finish up. So stay tuned. Be sure to click the subscribe. You want to stay tuned. You want to see all this. This is going to be awesome. There's also lots of other things happening, so I'm going to post those as well. You'll see a variety of things on this channel. I'm not just going to be on one subject matter like a lot of people are. I want to give you some variety, some choices, some alternatives, anything you guys want to see here. Let me know. Again, comments below. I'd love to get comments below. Thumbs up, please. And share with your friends. Make sure other people know about this so they can check them out as well. Again, this is a learning project, not only for me, but for you as well. So you can learn what to do, what not to do, because I've never done this before. I've never built an electric bike. This is my first one. So I'm learning as I go, and I'm showing you that, and you're seeing it as I trip and stumble. I'm also learning how to film myself as well, and how to speak to a camera. So these are all new things to me. So I'm always open to suggestions, helpful hints, comments. If you live in the Phoenix area, and you want to show me some things, how to use this camera a little better, how to film better, how to present myself, or even if you've got an electric bike, you want to check it out. Until the next episode, when we go back to the beginning, I'll see you on the sunny side.